When my husband died, everyone told me to move on. When his parents threw me and my son out, they said it was my fault. I believed them until his sister pulled up in a luxury SUV and said, "Lorraine, get in the car. Daniel didn't just disappear." I was 63, drenched, broke, and holding a sleeping child when I realized my marriage hadn't ended with a tragedy. It had begun a war I never knew I was drafted into. I'm Lorraine, and I've lived long enough to know storms have personalities. The one that night in Houston wasn't dramatic. It was mean. The rain didn't fall. It stabbed. It bounced off the Hayes' front steps, soaked my suitcase, and slid down the back of my collar like it had a personal grudge. My son Milo slept against my shoulder, little curls plastered to his face, fingers still clutching the dinosaur toy he refused to let go of even when he cried. Behind us, the porch light clicked off. That was my mother-in-law's final gesture of hospitality, saving electricity. "Don't bother coming back tomorrow," Veronica had said, arms crossed over her silk robe. "We've carried you long enough." Carried me. Even now, the memory tries to make me laugh. 3 years of cooking, cleaning, working double shifts, and turning over every paycheck for the household. But once they decide you're a burden, your contributions vanish, like footprints in a rainwater. Tonight's excuse was a broken glass bowl. One Milo had bumped when he tripped. She'd launched into a speech about how I'd ruined her son's life, and now her home. I apologized. Milo sobbed. Leonard stared at the television. No one told her to stop. So I packed one suitcase, the only thing in that house she didn't own, and stepped out into the storm with my child. The subdivision emptied onto a main road lined with palm trees whipping in the wind. We walked because there was nothing else to do. When we reached the bus stop bench, Milo stirred. "Mama?" "Yes, sweetheart." "Are we in trouble?" That question cut sharper than anything his grandmother said. "No," I lied, brushing wet hair off his forehead. "We're between houses." He nodded, trusting me more than I deserved. We boarded the downtown bus and rode to the last stop, the depot where people with no plan end up, the kind of place where exhaustion hangs thicker than the smell of old coffee. I found a corner by the vending machines and slid down the wall. Milo curled into me like a cold kitten. My coat wasn't warm, but it was all I had. This is where a younger, more hopeful version of myself might have started crying. Instead, I folded my trembling hands over my lap and whispered, "Daniel, if you're anywhere at all, I could use some help now." 3 years since his accident. 3 years of paperwork, condolences, and corrections like, "No, that's not how you spell his name." His parents framed the wrong one. Anyway, they'd given me his wedding band in a plastic bag. I wear it on a chain under my shirt. And in that dim bus station, I wondered whether my biggest mistake was trusting his parents with everything, or trusting myself with nothing. A security guard approached. "You can't sleep here, ma'am. Lockup starts soon." "I'm awake," I said, though my bones disagreed. "You got somewhere to go?" "Waiting for a ride." He didn't buy it, but he let it go. And right then, when I felt truly invisible, here's a little narrator's aside, the kind the younger me never would have dared say. If you're still here listening, just tap like and subscribe to Echo Lynn Stories. It tells me I'm not talking to the walls tonight. I didn't have long to sit with that thought. A bright white beam lit my face. Not bus headlights. Too clean. Too quiet. A silver SUV rolled to the curb and idled with a low hum. the kind of hum money makes. The driver got out. She walked with confidence sharpened into an edge. Boots that belonged on magazine covers, not a bus station floor. Dark hair pinned back, earrings catching yellow station light and making it look expensive. At first, I didn't recognize her. The last time I'd seen Tessa Hayes, she was a barefoot 20-something whirlwind who argued with her mother about everything from curfew to nail polish. She hadn't even shown up for Daniel's memorial. I'd assumed she was gone for good. But the woman walking toward me now was someone else. Disciplined, polished, with that same reckless fire simmering under her skin. Lorraine? Her voice had grown into itself. Lower, steadier, older. I swallowed. Tessa? She took in Milo asleep against me, then the suitcase, then my wet clothes. Her jaw tightened, but her tone stayed level. Get your things, she said. Come with me. I blinked. You want us to get in your car? No, I want you to stand here and catch pneumonia, she said dryly. Yes, Lorraine, get in. Now. I felt defensive heat rise in my chest. You disappear for years. Your brother dies and now you show up out of nowhere? At a bus station? Her expression didn't change, but something exhausted flickered behind her eyes. If you want to argue, she said quietly, we can do it somewhere warm, not on a tile floor while your son uses your shoulder as a pillow. People were watching now, half curious, half bored. Tessa stepped closer. I'm not your enemy tonight. Either you get in the car or you never find out what I know about Daniel. My breath caught. There are sentences that rearrange your life in an instant. That was one of them. What do you mean? I whispered. What do you know? She hesitated only a fraction of a second, just long enough for me to see the grief hiding beneath her calm exterior. Why he never came home, she said, and what your precious in-laws kept from us. The loudspeaker crackled with a delayed departure announcement. Somewhere, a baby cried. Plastic chairs squeaked. The world moved, and I suddenly couldn't. Daniel. Not accident, not tragedy. Hidden. I stood, lifting Milo carefully into my arms, suitcase handle rattling beside me. All right, I said. But if this is some kind of... If it was, she muttered, I'd have worn cheaper shoes. We walked out into the rain. It smelled like metal and gasoline. The SUV's warmth hit me like a shock when I climbed inside. Tessa pulled onto the freeway, her hand steady on the wheel. After a long silence, I finally forced the question out. What do you mean he didn't just disappear? Her knuckles tightened. Because, she said, voice low, men who disappear don't usually file reports against their own parents the week before they go missing. The rain hammered harder, like it wanted to hear more. And I knew. By stepping into that SUV, I wasn't getting rescued. I was getting recruited. There are moments in life when your heartbeat gets ahead of your thoughts. Tessa's sentence, reports against their own parents, did that to me. My breath stuttered. My hands went cold. The freeway lights stretched into long yellow lines as the SUV hummed forward, and for the first time in 3 years, I wondered if I had mourned the wrong thing. Not a death, but a cover-up. Explain, I managed, though my voice came out thin. Tessa didn't answer immediately. She merged into a lane of slow midnight traffic, eyes fixed on the road like she was replaying something she wished she could unsee. I didn't know any of this until a year after he disappeared, she said finally. But Daniel filed a complaint with the state auditor, then a second one with an independent investigator. Both were sealed. Sealed? Why? She shot me a sharp look. Because the people he reported outranked him and paid for privacy. I blinked. Are you saying he turned in your parents? Be careful with that word, she said. Parents. The bitterness in her tone was quiet, but poisonous. We drove in silence for a few minutes, the rhythmic swipe of the wipers filling the car. Milo shifted in the back seat, murmuring something about dinosaurs. My throat tightened. Tess, I whispered. Why come to me now? Her jaw flexed. Because you're the only person he loved enough to protect, and because the people who made him disappear haven't stopped cleaning up their mess. I stared at her. You think I'm in danger? I don't think, she said. I know. The way she said it, steady without panic, terrified me more than screaming would have. A truth I had never wanted suddenly felt too loud to ignore. Daniel wasn't just diligent. He wasn't just a hard worker. He was careful. The kind of man who double-checked every latch, every receipt, every plan. If he filed complaints, something serious had been happening long before his trip offshore. And I had been completely blind to it. Tessa, I said slowly, why didn't he tell me any of this? Why keep me in the dark? She exhaled hard. Because he thought secrecy would keep you safe. That didn't go very well, I muttered. A humorless smile touched her lips. No, it didn't. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope, worn at the corners, sealed with scotch tape like it had been opened too many times. This, she said, pressing it into my hand, is why I came. I looked down. My name, my maiden name, Parker, was written in Daniel's handwriting. My heart lurched. I found it in his old storage unit, Tessa said. It was hidden in the insulation behind a shelf. Someone else had already been there before me, but they didn't find this. My fingers shook as I peeled the envelope open. Inside was a folded sheet of notebook paper. Daniel's handwriting, neat, steady, familiar enough to make my chest ache, covered the page. Lorraine, if anything happens to me, trust what I've told you, not what you're shown. What disappears doesn't always die, and what dies doesn't always stay buried. I love you. D. The words blurred as tears stung my eyes. He wrote this before he vanished. Tessa, I whispered, my voice fractured. What was he afraid of? Not of what, she said. Of who? The conversation shifted like cold water poured over the truth. Tessa signaled left, then turned onto a quieter road lined with modest townhomes. The storm softened to drizzle. Streetlights flickered across parked cars. We're almost there, she said. Almost where? A place you and Milo can sleep without being monitored. Monitored? My stomach clenched. By who? She didn't answer. A few minutes later, she pulled into a gated complex. Not luxury, but solid, well-kept, with trimmed hedges and warm porch lights. She rolled down the window and entered a code. You live here? I asked. No, she said, but someone I trust does. We parked in front of a corner unit with soft yellow lights glowing from inside. Before I could ask more, the front door opened and a man stepped out. Not young. Not old. Maybe late 40s. Casual clothes, steady eyes, and the kind of posture people get when they've seen too much but refuse to bend. Evening? He said to Tessa. Then he looked at me and nodded. You must be Lorraine. I stiffened. And you are? A friend of Daniel's, he said simply. Name's Cal. That hit me like a cold gust. Daniel never mentioned him. Never mentioned any friend close enough to trust his wife with. Tessa must have seen confusion flicker across my face. He wasn't just Daniel's friend, she clarified. He helped with the investigations. Cal stepped aside, You're both soaked. Come in. I hesitated. Then Milo shivered in the back seat, and my maternal instincts outraced my suspicions. Inside, the house was warm, clean, and lived in. A kettle hummed on the stove. A folded blanket lay on the couch. Cal moved quietly, like a man accustomed to not startling people. You hungry? He asked. Kiddo might want something warm. We're fine, I said automatically. Milo sneezed, contradicting me. Cal smiled gently. Soup it is. I took a seat on the sofa, Milo lying down with his head on my lap. Tessa sat across from me, elbows on her knees, watching me like she was measuring how much I could handle. Earlier, I said slowly, you mentioned that Daniel filed reports. Reports about what? Tessa didn't answer immediately. She looked at Cal. He nodded. She deserves to know. Then she turned back to me. Lorraine, she said softly. Daniel wasn't investigating a company mistake. He was investigating a family scheme. My breath hitched. What? A scheme, she repeated. One that involved money being funneled out of his offshore projects and re-laundered through personal accounts? I shook my head. That doesn't make sense. Who would... Your in-laws, Tessa cut in. The room spun. No, I whispered. No, Veronica is cruel, but she wouldn't... She would, Tessa said. She did. And Leonard helped. My hands went cold. Cal returned with 2 bowls of soup and placed one in front of me, though I couldn't imagine swallowing anything. Daniel found discrepancies, Cal said. Small ones first, then bigger. Then transfers he never authorized. I closed my eyes. And instead of fixing the problem, Cal continued gently, his parents told him to stay quiet. They tried to frame him for it. The air left my lungs. That's why he filed reports, Tessa added. He tried to do it legally first. But once his complaints were sealed, he realized someone was burying the evidence faster than he could uncover it. I forced myself to breathe. So, you think they harmed him? I whispered. Because he tried to expose them? Tessa looked away. I think they helped someone else do it. A chill crept up my spine. Who? Cal answered for her. A man named Victor Hale. The name meant nothing to me, but the expression on both their faces told me everything. Who is he? I asked. Cal's jaw tightened. A developer with offshore interests. Money in places it shouldn't be. Connections no one wants to test. And Daniel crossed him? I asked, horrified. Not intentionally, Cal said. Daniel found a trail leading to Hale's accounts. Men like Hale don't like being traced. My pulse thudded painfully in my ears. So, Daniel filed reports, and Hale retaliated? Cal hesitated. We don't know everything yet. But we do know, Tessa said quietly, that your in-laws weren't victims in this. They were accomplices. I pressed my hand against my mouth to keep from breaking. Daniel, my Daniel, the man who kissed my hand when he left for work, the man who insisted Milo inherit his gentleness, not his stress, the man who would have never survived betrayal from the people he loved most. How long have you known? I whispered. About a year, Tessa said, but I didn't have proof until recently, and I needed leverage before I approached you. Leverage? Cal set a small flash drive on the coffee table. This, he said, is part of what Daniel hid before he disappeared. My heart stuttered. What's on it? I whispered. Before either of them could answer, a sharp buzz rattled the security panel by the door. Someone was at the gate. Tessa jumped up. Cal's face drained of color. He strode to the small wall monitor and glanced at the camera feed. Then he swore under his breath. What? I whispered, panic rising. Who is it? Cal hit the monitor off and turned to us, voice deadly calm. Your in-laws, he said, and they're not alone. My breath left me completely. How did they find us? Tessa looked at me with regret so sharp it felt like a blade. Lorraine, she whispered. They followed you from the bus station. A heavy fist pounded the door. Open up, Veronica's voice screeched from outside. We know you're in there. Milo jolted awake. My entire body went cold. Cal locked the deadbolt. Tessa grabbed my arm. Don't panic, she whispered. But whatever happens, do not open that door. The pounding grew louder, and then a second voice joined in. A man's voice. One I hadn't heard in 3 years. Lorraine, it said through the wood. Open the door. We need to talk. My vision swam. It sounded like, no, impossible. But the voice said it again. Lorraine, it's me. Daniel. There are shocks that hit your body, and there are shocks that hit your soul. Hearing that voice, my husband's voice, outside Cal's door at nearly 1 a.m. after 3 years of believing he was gone, that wasn't shock. That was annihilation. My heart lurched so violently I had to grip the couch to stay upright. Milo sat up, rubbing his eyes. Mama, who's shouting? I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to steady. It's okay, sweetheart. Stay by me. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was anywhere near okay. Cal moved silently, his steps measured, controlled, like someone trained for situations where panic kills. Tessa stood frozen, eyes fixed on the door. Her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and dread. Lorraine, Cal said quietly, get back from the entrance. I didn't move. That voice, that impossible voice, called again. Lorraine, please, I just need to see you. Something inside me cracked. The devil's trick sound can lie. Memory can lie. Grief can lie. But that voice, it was the voice that whispered, I love you, when he thought I was asleep. The voice that read bedtime stories to Milo, changing characters with each page. The voice that hummed under its breath while fixing leaky sinks or folding laundry. No cheap imitation could copy that. No stranger could replicate the small tremor he always had on his R's. My breath hitched. Daniel, I whispered. Tessa grabbed my arm instantly. Don't, it's not him. You don't know that, I hissed. Her grip tightened painfully. Yes, Lorraine, I do. Another bang rattled the door. Veronica's shrill voice followed. You have something that belongs to us. Open this door right now. Milo flinched, burying his face against me. Cal stepped to the door, not opening it, just listening. Then he asked, calm, steady, terrifyingly direct. Say your name. The man outside laughed, a low, controlled breath. I think she knows who I am, he said. My skin prickled. Cal shot me a razor-sharp look. Real Daniel, he said, would have said his name. The truth of that hit me so hard my knees weakened. Outside, the man spoke again, this time with a tone colder than anything Daniel ever used. Lorraine, if you don't open this door, things will get difficult for everyone inside. My stomach dropped. That wasn't Daniel's voice. It was his voice, but not his way of speaking. Daniel never threatened, ever. Cal mouthed, not him, and the floor beneath my heart gave out. The trap. The pounding grew louder, more impatient. Cal turned to Tessa. Go to the back window. Check the fence line. She nodded and slipped down the hallway. Cal lowered his voice. They're trying to force a confrontation. They want you scared. If you panic, you'll make mistakes. I forced a trembling breath. Who is that man? Cal answered like a surgeon delivering bad news. Someone who knows Daniel's voice well enough to replicate it. Someone your in-laws work with. Someone who wants what Daniel left behind. My mouth went dry. The flash drive? I whispered. He nodded once. They're not here for a reunion, Lorraine. They're here to erase evidence. Outside, Veronica screeched again. Give us the bag! You stole something from our home. The bag? I frowned. What bag? Cal frowned back. You didn't bring a bag from their house? Just my suitcase, I said. Clothes and Milo's toys. The blood drained from Cal's face. Then, they think you have something Daniel hid from them. A chill slid down my spine. They think you have it, he repeated, and they're desperate. The man outside pounded harder. Lorraine, he said, voice tightening. Open this door. I won't ask again. Fear has a sound. Tessa returned. Breath sharp. There's another car behind the building, she said. Black sedan. Lights off. Someone's inside. Cal swore under his breath. This isn't intimidation. This is extraction. My heart slammed against my ribs. Extraction. A word that had no place in the life I used to have. A word that meant they were here to take something. Or someone. Tessa crossed the room, crouched in front of Milo, and gently touched his cheek. Hey, buddy, she whispered with a soft smile. Can you be extra quiet for me? Milo nodded, eyes wide. Her smile vanished the second she turned away. We need to move, she said to Cal. If they break through, they won't, he said. Not before the police arrive. You call the police? I asked. Of course, Cal said. But response time at this hour is... A loud metallic click echoed from the back of the house, not from the front door, from the sliding door in the kitchen. Cal froze. Tessa's head snapped up. My pulse exploded. Someone was trying to get in from the backyard. The breach. The kitchen light flickered as if reacting to the danger. Rain hissed against the glass. Another soft click followed. Quieter this time. The kind of sound made by someone using a tool, not a key. Cal moved instantly, silently, grabbing something from under the hallway cabinet. A heavy metal flashlight, long and clearly chosen as a weapon if needed. Tessa grabbed my suitcase and shoved it behind the sofa. Sit down. Hold Milo. Don't move unless I tell you, she whispered. Then she positioned herself halfway between me and the kitchen, a human shield. The man outside the front door slammed his palm against it again. Lorraine, he barked. Last chance. The sliding door gave a soft crack. It was opening. My breath strangled in my throat. A shadow slipped in through the narrow gap. A man's outline, tall, hooded, stepping carefully onto the kitchen tiles. Cal lifted the flashlight. Stop, he said. The intruder didn't stop. He stepped forward, slow, confident. That's when I realized he wasn't looking at Cal. He was looking at me. He raised his hand, not with a weapon, with a phone displaying a photo. My stomach collapsed. It was a picture of Milo, asleep, in Veronica's living room from weeks ago. The intruder smiled, a cold, deliberate curve. Evening, Mrs. Hayes, he said softly. I think you have something for us. Tessa surged forward, positioning herself fully between me and the man. Cal shifted his stance, ready to strike. The man raised his other hand, palm out. You won't want to do anything foolish, he said calmly. We're not here to hurt the boy. My vision tunneled. Then, what do you want? I whispered. He nodded toward the table. The flash drive, and anything else Daniel left behind. I don't have anything else. He looked at me with pity, awful, patronizing pity. Mrs. Hayes, he murmured, you have everything. You just don't know where it is yet. A sharp knock hit the front door again. Then, Lorraine, open up. It's your husband. My knees buckled. The intruder in the kitchen smiled wider and whispered, "That voice out there? Not him, but the real Daniel. He might still be alive. If terror had a flavor, it would taste like metal." That's what filled my mouth when the intruder whispered, "The real Daniel might still be alive." Not hope, not relief, just raw metallic fear. Because whoever says something like that during a break-in isn't offering comfort. They're offering leverage. Cal stepped in front of him, holding the flashlight like a baton. "Back up," he warned. The intruder didn't back up. He didn't even blink. His eyes rested on me with unsettling calm, as if he'd been waiting to see my reaction. Outside, the fake Daniel slammed the door again. "Lorraine, let me in, please." The sound split through me, but the intruder's whisper carved deeper. "You're listening to a recording manipulated in real time. They've had years to practice his voice." Tessa swore under her breath. "They're running a dual pressure tactic." Cal didn't look away from the intruder. "Who sent you?" The man smiled faintly. "You already know." "Victor Hale," Cal said. The smile widened, just a fraction. Confirmation enough. My lungs squeezed. Hale. The name had hung in the room like smoke ever since they told me about the offshore laundering, the threats, the sealed reports. "You people keep misunderstanding," the intruder said, pacing one slow step closer. "We're not trying to hurt her." Tessa barked a humorless laugh. "Funny way of showing it." "We're trying to stop something worse." My voice cracked. "Worse than what?" He stopped pacing, and for the first time his expression changed. Not cold, not mocking, but oddly sincere. "Worse than what happened to your husband. Truth or poison?" I felt the room tilt. "You said Daniel might be alive," I whispered. "Now you talk like he's dead." The intruder tilted his head. "Alive can mean many things, Mrs. Hayes." Cold rippled down my spine. "What does that mean?" I demanded. He didn't answer. Instead, he opened his phone again. Not Milo's picture this time. A photo of Daniel. Not the old one from the funeral. Not the smiling one from our early marriage. Something newer. Something I had never seen. Daniel standing near a loading dock looking over his shoulder. Thin, pale, sunken in the cheeks. Alive. My breath shattered. "When was this?" I whispered. "Months after his accident," the intruder said softly. "He was being held offshore. Moved several times." I clutched the armrest to keep from collapsing. "Told you not to say it like that," the intruder muttered, almost to himself. "She's not ready." Tessa lunged a step forward. "Where is he now?" The intruder's gaze flicked to her with a calm that was almost insulting. "If I knew," he said, "we wouldn't be standing here having this conversation." My hands trembled. Cal steadied me by the elbow. "But I can tell you this much," the intruder continued. "Your husband didn't disappear because of a mistake. He disappeared because he uncovered something that was never meant to be exposed. Something that still hasn't been found." "Meaning?" Cal asked. The intruder turned his eyes to me. "He left it with you, Mrs. Hayes." The world stopped. "With me?" I whispered. "I don't have anything." "You do," he said. "You just don't know where you put it." Pressure. Closing in. Outside, Veronica shrieked again. "Lorraine, open this door right now or I'll—" Her voice cut off, like someone slapped a hand over her mouth. The man playing Daniel spoke next. Calm, deep, rehearsed. "Lorraine, sweetheart, I just want to talk." My stomach twisted. The intruder shook his head with genuine disgust. "That's embarrassing. They've gotten sloppy." Tessa hissed. "You're lecturing them on ethics?" "I'm lecturing incompetence," he replied. "There's a difference." Cal stepped closer to him. "You said Daniel left something here. What is it?" The intruder didn't answer immediately. His eyes softened, not with pity, but with calculation. "Mrs. Hayes," he said gently, "have you ever found something in your home that you didn't recognize? Something you assumed belonged to your son or your in-laws? A book, a file, a digital device?" I shook my head helplessly. "I don't know. Maybe. We lived in their house. Half the drawers were full of... Think." He pressed. "Something small. Something that didn't look important." Panic fluttered inside my chest. "I don't..." Then I froze. A memory slipped into place. Something that meant nothing then. Something I didn't realize I still had. A key. A plain, silver, unmarked key I found in Daniel's jacket pocket the week after he vanished. I had assumed it belonged to a storage unit bill we never paid. I put it in a little ceramic dish with spare buttons and safety pins. And then I forgot. My lips parted. The intruder saw the change in my face instantly. "There it is," he whispered. "You remember something." Cal stepped in front of me protectively. "You're not getting anything from her." The intruder didn't look at him. He kept his eyes locked on me, voice low, deliberate. "If you have the key," he said, "you need to give it to us. Now, before your in-laws take it." My pulse hammered in my ears. "Why?" I whispered. "What does the key open?" "A truth," he said. "A truth that will destroy everyone involved." "And Daniel?" I asked, voice cracking. "Will it help him?" The intruder hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. "No," Tessa snapped. "He knows nothing about Daniel's condition. He's manipulating you." "I'm trying to save her," the intruder said calmly. Cal stepped closer. "By breaking in?" "If I wanted to hurt her," the man said, "I wouldn't have come alone." That shut Cal up for one awful second, because it was true. He had come alone. Outside, someone banged the door again, now more frantic, less coordinated. Maybe an argument had broken out among them. Maybe the fake Daniel slipped. Maybe Veronica's patience had boiled over. The intruder sighed, checked his watch, then raised his eyes to me again. "Mrs. Hayes," he said softly, "time is running out. Give me the key, and I will walk away quietly." Cal took a step forward. "Over my dead..." A second sound cut him off. A sound that froze every muscle in my body. The crack of wood splitting. The front door frame had snapped. They were forcing their way inside. Tessa grabbed Milo, pulling him behind the armchair. Cal raised the flashlight like a club. The intruder raised his hands, not surrendering, but positioning himself so he wouldn't get hit when the door broke. "You're out of time," he murmured. "Decide quickly." The final splinter gave way. The door burst open, and standing in the doorway, soaked, wild-eyed, breathing hard, was a man who looked exactly, impossibly, unmistakably like Daniel, but older, hollow-cheeked, sunburned, eyes darker, colder, alive. He looked straight at me. "Lorraine," he rasped, "give me the key." My vision went white around the edges. If he was real, why was Tessa staring at him like she'd seen a ghost? Why was Cal stepping backward, panic for the first time in his voice? Why was the intruder smiling like the final piece had clicked? And why, oh God, why did my heart not recognize him? Because the man who stood in my doorway had Daniel's face, but not Daniel's soul. If grief has a voice, mine went silent the moment he stepped through my doorway. The man with Daniel's face stood dripping rainwater across my hardwood floor. Same eyes, Same jawline, same faint scar above the brow from the time he crashed his bicycle at 14. But there was something wrong. Something no photograph or impersonator could imitate or fake. My Daniel always entered a room like he was checking the temperature, easing into the space. This man entered like he owned the air. He didn't even blink at Tessa, who had a gun drawn, or Cal, who looked ready to tackle him. He only looked at me. "Lorraine," he said, voice low and gravel-edged, "give me the key." My throat closed. My fingers shook. My bones knew before my mind understood. This man was dangerous. And the intruder, the one who'd broken into my house an hour earlier, smiled like a magician who'd just pulled off his favorite trick. "I told you," he murmured. "Time was running out." Cal stepped protectively in front of me. "Back up," he warned the new arrival. "Whoever you are, you're not walking out of here with anything." Then Not Daniel flicked his eyes over Cal. It wasn't a request. His voice sounded like Daniel's, but Daniel never spoke like that. My breath trembled. "Tessa?" Cal said quietly without looking away. "Tell me you have a plan." "Working on it," she muttered, her brain firing behind her eyes. Outside, shouting erupted. Veronica screaming curses, Milo crying again, someone yelling for someone to grab a crowbar. The neighborhood felt like a pot boiling over. Inside, the tension thickened until it felt sticky in my lungs. Not. Daniel took a single step toward me, and I, God help me, stepped back. The old signs my heart still recognized. "Lorraine," he said softly, too softly. "I know you're overwhelmed. I know you're confused. But you're holding something dangerous. Let me take care of it." A chill ran up my ribs. My Daniel never used that tone with me, even at his worst, even when we argued. This tone was ownership. I forced my voice out. Where have you been?" A pause. He blinked once. "I can explain everything once I have the key." That was answer enough. Tessa let out a quiet, vicious sound. "He's not him. Not even close." The man's eyes slid to her. "You're interfering in a family matter." "Oh, sweetheart," Tessa snapped. "You don't want my opinion on family matters." "Not." Daniel turned back to me. "Lorraine, come here." He held one hand out. My breath stuttered, and then the smallest detail broke me. Daniel, my real Daniel, always kept his wedding band on. Even in the hospital after an appendectomy, he asked the nurse not to remove it. The man standing in front of me, bare finger, not even a tan line. My heart fractured into understanding. "You're not him," I whispered. Something cold flickered across his features. "Lorraine," he said again, this time edged with steel. "Give me the..." A silence fell over the room, so sudden it felt unnatural, because Tessa had cocked her gun, and the intruder, the first one, had stepped backward, studying Not Daniel with genuine interest, like he'd just encountered a rare animal. "Well," he murmured, "this is unexpected." Not Daniel turned toward him, jaw tightening. "You weren't supposed to be here." "Neither were you," the intruder replied, tilting his head. Their eyes locked. Predator meeting predator. And I realized these two men knew each other, maybe not by name, but by type. The mask slips. "Lorraine," Not Daniel said again, ignoring everyone else now. "Listen to me. If you give me the key, no one has to get hurt." I swallowed hard. "What key?" I whispered. The room froze again, because he smiled. Not kindly, not reassuringly, but knowingly. "You remember," he said softly. "I see it on your face." My skin prickled. He stepped closer. "Daniel trusted you, and I'm asking you to trust me now?" "No," I said. The first time I'd said that word in years with certainty. He blinked. Not angered, not surprised, simply recalculating. "Lorraine," he said, "you don't understand the stakes. And you don't understand my patience." Cal cut in, stepping forward. "One more step, and I put you through the window." Daniel didn't even look at him. His gaze stayed locked on me. "Think about your son," he said quietly. "Think about what will happen if the wrong people get that key." My stomach twisted violently, because he was right about one thing. The wrong people were already in my house. A truth none of us expected. Then the intruder, the one who had broken in before, spoke calmly, like he was answering a question and none of us asked. "She doesn't have the real key." All eyes swung to him. Not Daniel's expression changed. A crack in the mask. "What did you say?" The intruder shrugged one shoulder. "She has something, but not the original. Hale has it." My breath hitched. "Hale?" I whispered. "The man who Daniel..." The intruder nodded. "Hale stole the original the night Daniel vanished. What Lorraine has is something else." Not Daniel's voice turned dangerous. "You're lying." The intruder didn't blink. "I don't have time to lie." Tessa muttered, "Oh, hell," because she understood something before the rest of us did. I looked between the two men. "What, exactly do I have?" The intruder exhaled slowly. "Mrs. Hayes, what you have isn't a key." He stepped forward, speaking quietly, carefully. "It's a locator." My heart stumbled. What?" "It doesn't open anything," he said. "It points to something." Not Daniel's jaw clenched so hard I heard the crack. "Where?" he demanded. The intruder looked straight at me. "Wherever Daniel hid the truth." The room swayed around me. My legs felt hollow. I pressed a hand to the wall to steady myself, and that's when Not Daniel moved. Fast, too fast. He lunged for me. I felt his fingers graze my sleeve. Tessa's gun fired. Cal slammed into him. The intruder grabbed his arm, and all three men collided near the hallway in a blur of violent motion. I stumbled backward, hitting the bookcase. Milo screamed. Outside, someone finally called the police. But inside, I watched Not Daniel twist, break free, shove Cal into the wall, knock the intruder off balance, and sprint straight toward me. His voice a low growl. "Give me the locator. Now." I turned to run, but he caught my wrist and whispered something so cold it felt like ice sliding under my skin. "He doesn't want to be found." His grip tightened on my wrist, firm, not bruising, but unyielding. "Lorraine," he whispered, too close, too calm. "Listen to me. If you bring him back, you'll destroy what's left of him." My pulse hammered against his fingers. Cal lay winded against the wall. Tessa was crawling toward her fallen gun. The intruder was back on his feet, circling, not attacking yet, studying Not Daniel like he'd finally identified the species. But this man, this imitation wearing my husband's face, kept his eyes locked on mine. "You don't understand what you're trying to do," he said. "You think finding him will fix everything. It won't. He's not the man you remember." My voice shook but found its edge. "And who made him that way?" For the first time, his expression flickered. Not guilt, not fear, recognition. "You already know the answer," he said softly. "So did he." He leaned in closer. "That's why he ran." My breath snagged. "Daniel didn't run," I snapped. "He was taken." Not Daniel tilted his head, studying me with something almost like pity. "If that helps you sleep at night, keep believing it." Behind him, the intruder finally spoke. "That's enough." Not Daniel didn't even turn around. "You've said too much," the intruder continued, stepping forward with a quiet authority. You weren't supposed to tell her anything. You weren't supposed to interfere. Not, Daniel replied. This is spiraling, Tessa hissed, picking up her gun again. Cal, move. Cal pushed to his feet, still dazed, but before either could intervene, Not Daniel yanked me toward him, using my body as a shield. My gasp echoed. Tessa froze. Cal froze. The intruder stopped mid-step. Not Daniel's mouth was at my ear. Find the locator, he murmured. Find it before they do. And when you do, his voice dropped even lower. Burn it. Then he shoved me away so hard I stumbled into the bookshelf. Tessa raised her gun instinctively. But Not Daniel didn't attack. He ran. Straight out, the broken front door, into the storm, disappearing into darkness like a shadow being swallowed whole. Silence. After the storm, the house fell unsettlingly quiet. The only sound was Milo crying softly from behind the couch. Cal rushed to the doorframe, checking the street. He's gone. He knew exactly where to slip out. Tessa reached me first. Are you hurt? She demanded, checking my wrists. I shook my head, still dizzy. He said... I swallowed. He said Daniel doesn't want to be found. The intruder exhaled sharply, rubbing his jaw. He said that to confuse you. But he didn't sound convinced. Not entirely. Tessa rounded on him. Who is that guy? Another operative of Hale's? No, he said slowly. Worse. Cal frowned. Meaning? The intruder hesitated. He's someone who used to work with Daniel. A hole opened in my stomach. What? Not directly, the intruder corrected, but he knows the same people, the same back channels, the same places to disappear. He looked at the doorway where Not Daniel vanished. And he knows the same truth Daniel uncovered. My legs weakened. What truth? I whispered. He turned back toward me. The truth that got him taken. The letter. I never received. He pulled something from his pocket. A folded scrap of waterproof paper. He didn't hand it to me. He placed it on the table like evidence. This was supposed to reach you, he said quietly. It didn't. My hands shook as I picked it up. The handwriting, shaky, compressed as if written in very little light. It was Daniel's. If anyone gives this to you, it means I didn't make it out in time. Don't look for me. Don't dig. Don't trust anyone who knows my name. I love you. Please forgive me. My vision blurred. I pressed the page to my chest, heart breaking and mending at the same time. Tessa swore under her breath. Cal looked stunned. The intruder watched me carefully. I didn't bring this to hurt you, he said. I brought it because he wrote it for you, years ago. Before Hale's men moved him. Moved him, not killed, moved. I wiped my eyes. He's alive, isn't he? The intruder didn't answer directly. Instead, your husband is a man who ran toward danger to protect people he loved. That doesn't stop because someone locks him away. My breath shook. So he's alive. I didn't say that, but you didn't deny it. He looked away. That was enough. The thing I didn't want to remember, Cal cleared his throat. Lorraine, about this locator he mentioned. Do you know what he was talking about? I tried to think, really think. Fragments floated to the surface. A worn jacket, a forgotten pocket, a small silver key, a ceramic bowl, a storage unit number I never recognized, a feeling I'd buried because grief had swallowed everything else. The intruder watched my face change. You remember, he said softly. I might. Hale will come for it, he warned, and so will that man, and neither of them will care who gets in their way. A chill crawled up my spine. What does the locator lead to? The intruder hesitated. Then finally, It leads to what Daniel found, and what Hale has been hunting ever since, evidence that can destroy him completely. Tessa lowered her gun a fraction. Well, that sure sounds like something worth finding. Cal nodded grimly. Then we find it before anyone else does. But the intruder didn't look relieved. If anything, he looked troubled. You don't understand what that means, he said. If you locate what Daniel hid, there's no going back, not for any of you. I swallowed. What happens? He met my eyes with unsettling honesty. You stop being victims. The room fell still. You become threats. The night splits open. A sharp metallic crack echoed outside. We all froze. Another crack, this one closer. Gunfire. Tessa pulled Milo into her arms, ducking behind the couch. Cal grabbed the flashlight again, jaw tightening. The intruder's expression hardened instantly. Hale's men found him. Who? Not Daniel? Tessa hissed. No, he said. Something dark flickered in his eyes. They found Hale. My breath vanished. Hale. The man who orchestrated the disappearance. The man who chased whatever Daniel uncovered. The man who wanted the locator. Cal looked at the intruder sharply. Why would they be shooting at their own boss? The intruder exhaled once. Short. Cold. Because someone else got to him first. My heartbeat faltered. Who? I whispered. He stared at the front door. At this hour? He shrugged faintly. Probably someone who finally realized Hale was a loose end. Another gunshot. Closer. Then, a faint voice outside. A voice I recognized. Familiar. Faint. Cracked with exhaustion. Lorraine. My heart seized. No, I whispered. That can't be. Tessa's head snapped toward the door. Was that? The intruder cursed under his breath. Cal reached for the door. No. The intruder barked. But it was too late. Because I had already taken a step forward. Toward the voice I hadn't heard in years. The voice that could break me open. The voice that said my name like a plea. Lorraine, please. And this time, it didn't sound like not Daniel. It didn't sound manufactured. It sounded like him, my Daniel, alive, terrified, and standing just outside my shattered doorway. For years, I imagined what I'd feel if I ever heard Daniel's voice again. Joy, maybe. Relief. A collapse into gratitude. But when the voice drifted through my broken doorway, thin, trembling, desperate. Lorraine, it's me. I didn't feel joy. I felt dread. Cal reached the door first, holding an arm out to block me. Stay back, he warned. We don't know who's out there. Tessa crouched low with Milo, ready to move if bullets started flying again. The intruder stood stone still, listening. No one breathed. Another whisper. Lorraine, please. I need you. My knees nearly gave out. Daniel always said my name softly, with a slight upward lilt, as if checking I was okay before asking anything else. The voice outside had that exact lilt. Exactly. Cal looked at me. You know him better than anyone. Does that sound like... Yes. I choked. Too much. The intruder shook his head sharply. That's impossible. But he didn't sound certain. He sounded shaken. A shadow shifted on the porch. A figure stepped into the dim light. A man, unsteady, leaning heavily on the doorframe, clothes torn, face bruised, jaw scruffy with a beard Daniel never grew. But the eyes... Oh God, the eyes. Lorraine, he whispered, lips trembling. Daniel? I breathed. Something in his face broke. A quake of longing, pain, and something older than both. It's really me, he whispered. I didn't know how to get back. Please don't let them take me again. Every part of me shook, but before I could step closer, The intruder's voice sliced through the air. That is not your husband. Fracture in the room. The man outside flinched, backing up like a wounded animal. No, I am, he said quickly. Lorraine, you know me. You feel me. Look at me. I did. Every detail tugged at old memories. The crease between his brows, the slight unevenness in his left nostril from a childhood fight, the way he braced one knee, an old injury from before we married. So many things the impersonator inside hadn't matched. So many things I thought only Daniel could have. But the intruder stepped closer to me, his voice low but urgent. He's good. Very good. But not good enough. Tessa narrowed her eyes. What are you seeing that we're not? He didn't look away from the man outside. Hale trained people for misdirection, he muttered. Some of them spent years studying the mannerisms of their targets. But why mimic Daniel? Cal demanded. To open the door, the intruder said. All they need is 5 seconds of trust. The man on the porch let out a broken sob. Lorraine, he whispered, stepping forward. You're listening to the wrong people. I froze, because the way he said it, too smooth, too perfect. Daniel never tried to influence me with emotion. He asked. He never pleaded as a tactic. Something cracked inside my fear. No, something wasn't right. The test only. Daniel would pass. He knows too much, I whispered. Cal nodded. Ask him something only Daniel would know. My breath trembled. There was one thing, one moment so private, so painful, that only Daniel and I ever shared it. Not even our families. Not even friends. Okay, I said, voice shaking. I'll ask. The man outside lifted his head with desperate hope. Anything? He said. Please, just ask. I swallowed hard. Where were we? I said slowly. The night I lost the baby? The room behind me fell still. Even Tessa's breath stopped. The man on the porch blinked rapidly, his lips parted. I don't... Lorraine, sweetheart. I stepped closer to the door, heart hammering. You don't remember? I whispered. I do. Just help me. I stared him down. Daniel never forgot that night. Never. It lived in both of us like an ache behind the ribs. But this man, he hadn't known the answer. He didn't even know how to fake knowing. My tears blurred the doorway. You're not my husband, I whispered. His expression shifted. Not grief, not heartbreak, coldness. Then, without warning, he lunged forward. Chaos splits open, Tessa fired. Cal tackled him. The intruder grabbed me by the shoulders and yanked me out of the way. The porch exploded into motion. The man fought like someone trained to subdue and restrain quickly. No wild swings, no wasted effort. He aimed for me, for my pocket, for the locator he believed I had. Grab his arm, Tessa shouted. I'm trying. Cal grunted. The man threw Cal off with terrifying strength. He reached me, fingers brushing my coat, when the intruder slammed him sideways into the railing. The wood cracked. The man snarled, a sound not human in its fury. And then, down the street, sirens, real ones. The man froze for a fraction of a second, just long enough. Cal and the intruder pinned him. Tessa cuffed his wrists with the zip ties she apparently carried, because of course she did. The sirens drew closer. The man stopped struggling. He went eerily still, looking straight at me, breathing hard. Then he smiled, a small, chilling smile. You don't even know, he whispered. A chill slid down my spine. Know what? He leaned forward slightly, zip ties biting into his skin. What he did, he said softly. Daniel. You're Daniel. What he really did. My heart twisted. What are you talking about? His voice was barely audible. He didn't hide the locator from you. I frowned. What does that mean? He hid it from them, he said, tilting his head toward Cal, toward Tessa, toward the intruder. The intruder stiffened. What? He demanded. The man's grin grew wider. He didn't trust any of you. Cal stepped forward. You're lying. Am I? The man whispered. Tessa's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? The man looked at me again, direct, clear, honeyed with poison. He trusted only one person, he said softly. And it wasn't either of them. My skin prickled. The intruder's jaw tightened. Enough. But the man whispered one final thing, a whisper that shifted the ground beneath us. He trusted someone you haven't thought about in years. My breath stilled. Who? I whispered. The man leaned forward, eyes bright with triumph, and murmured, Your sister. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. My sister? The words scraped out of my throat like they didn't belong to me. The man zip-tied on my porch smiled like the devil had finally been invited to speak. Yes, he whispered. Daniel trusted her. Not them. Not you. Her. I shook my head immediately. No, that's impossible. We haven't spoken in 6 years, he finished for me, after the inheritance dispute. A cold crack split through my chest. How do you know about that? He gave me a look that said, My dear, you have no idea what world you married into. Tessa stepped closer, gun still drawn. Enough games. Why her? Why now? The man laughed softly. Because she had something Daniel needed, something none of you did. Cal frowned. And what was that? The man didn't look at him. He looked at me. Access. A tremor ran through my spine. He continued, savoring every second. Your sister works in financial compliance for a private auditing firm, the same firm Hale used to wash his offshore accounts. My stomach dropped. She wouldn't, I whispered. She hates anything illegal. She barely drives above the speed limit. She didn't help willingly, the man said, shrugging. But she helped. Maybe she didn't even know what she was doing. Maybe Daniel didn't tell her everything. But he trusted her enough to hide the locator where only she could reach it. I stepped back as if someone had shoved me. No, he would have told me. Tessa's voice softened just a hair. People do strange things when they know they're running out of time. The intruder, silent until now, finally spoke. We need to move, he said. If he's telling the truth, Hale's people are already heading toward your sister. A cold wave crashed over me. My sister doesn't even know any of this exists. Exactly, the intruder replied. She's the perfect target. The drive that changed everything. 10 minutes later, the porch was swarming with police lights. They took the man away, still smiling like he'd planted a bomb only he could see. I watched the cruiser disappear. Cal touched my shoulder. We should go. Tessa had Milo in her car seat, comforting him gently. The intruder waited by his vehicle, the engine already running, but I stood frozen in my doorway, staring at the street where the man had vanished. My sister. We loved each other once, fought like wild animals later, stopped talking entirely after the inheritance dispute from my mother's estate. I hadn't heard her voice in years. But was it possible that Daniel had reached out to her, trusted her, given her something too dangerous to explain? Why her? Why not me? The intruder opened the passenger door. Lorraine, he said quietly, if he trusted her, then he was trying to protect you. That sentence sliced right through my ribs, because deep down, I knew it was true. I forced myself forward. Let's go. My sister's doorstep. Her apartment building was old brick, quiet, too normal for the madness circling my life. We climbed the stairs. I felt each step in my bones. When I reached her door, I froze again. The last time I stood here, I had been shaking with anger. Now, I was shaking with fear. I knocked. A pause. The chain rattled. Then the door cracked open. Her face appeared. Older, tired, cautious. "Lorraine?" Her voice was confusion wrapped in shock. "We need to talk," I whispered. She opened the door the rest of the way and instantly noticed Cal, Tessa, and the intruder behind me. "What is this?" she demanded. "What's going on?" Then she saw Milo and softened for half a second, but her eyes returned to me, sharper now. "Lorraine, what happened?" I swallowed hard. "Did Daniel contact you before he disappeared?" Her breath caught. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The truth was written across her face. My knees weakened. You spoke to him." Her eyes glistened. "I tried to tell you," she whispered, "but you wouldn't speak to me. You changed your number. You blocked my email." A knife of regret twisted in me. "What did he tell you?" I asked, voice thin. She hesitated. Then she opened her drawer and pulled out, my breath hitched, a small tarnished metal object. Not a key. Not a drive. Something different. A tiny steel capsule, no larger than my thumb, sealed airtight. "I didn't know what it was," she said. "He mailed it to me a week before he vanished. Said to keep it safe. Said not to open it unless someone came asking." The intruder inhaled sharply. "That's it?" Cal stepped forward. "What is it exactly?" The intruder didn't answer him. He answered me. "It's the real locator, the one Hale has been chasing for years." I stared at the capsule in my sister's hand. It looked so small, so harmless. "How does it work?" I whispered. The intruder met my gaze with solemn weight. "It doesn't point to evidence," he said slowly. He took a breath. "It points to him." My heart lurched. "What?" "It's biometric," he continued. "Encoded to Daniel's DNA. It activates only in proximity to him." A silence fell. Then my sister whispered, "Lorraine." I turned. "He's alive," she said softly. "I think Daniel's alive." My throat tightened. Cal exhaled sharply. Tessa wiped a tear before it fell. The intruder didn't move. "It means," he said quietly, "that wherever he is, he's close enough now for this to matter. The choice, only I could make." I held the capsule in my palm. It was warm from my sister's hand, heavy despite its size, alive with meaning. "Once you activate it," the intruder said, "everything changes. Every faction hunting him will converge. Every secret he buried will surface." "Will it lead us to him?" I whispered. He nodded slowly. "It will. But it will also put you in the center of the storm he died trying to outrun." I closed my fingers around the capsule. My hands no longer shook. For the first time in years, I felt steady. "Then we start the storm," I said. Tessa smiled. Cal nodded. My sister exhaled a shaky breath of relief. The intruder gave a single solemn nod, and I pressed the capsule. A soft electronic pulse vibrated through my palm. A tiny green light blinked alive. And somewhere out there, in the dark, a matching signal blinked back. My sister gasped. Cal stared. Tessa whispered, "Holy hell." The intruder spoke last. "He's close." My throat tightened. "Daniel, alive, after everything." "We go to him," I whispered. The intruder nodded. Lights flashed again, stronger, closer. Daniel's signal was moving. He wasn't running from us. He was coming to us. And for the first time since my life fell apart, I stepped forward, not in fear, but in strength. Whatever truth waited out there, whatever pain, whatever answers, I would face it. Because after everything he endured, after everything we survived, my husband was still fighting to get home. And now, so was I. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Echo Lens Stories. And tell me, where are you listening from? I read every comment.